The air in Calris station smelled like rust and desperation. Tay walked through the crowded market, keeping his head down and his hands in his pockets. He had been here before, but never for long. This place was where the galaxy sent its worst. Smugglers, thieves, and slavers all did business here, far from the watchful eyes of the Galactic Concordat. He only needed supplies. Fuel cells, protein packs, maybe some spare parts for his ship's aging engine. Then he would leave and forget this place existed. That was the plan. But plans had a way of falling apart on Calris Station. The crowd thickened near the center plaza. Tay heard the auctioneer's voice before he saw the platform. Sharp practiced selling flesh like it was cargo. Tay's stomach turned. He had seen slave markets before during the war. He hated them then. He hated them now. He should have walked away. But something made him stop. On the raised platform, cages lined up in rows. Inside them, dozens of beings from across the galaxy waited to be sold. Some looked defiant. Others looked broken. A few children pressed against the bars, crying for parents who were probably already gone. Tay's jaw tightened. He started to turn away when he noticed something strange. One cage sat apart from the others. The crowd gave it space, a wide circle of empty ground around it. Even the slavers seemed nervous when they glanced in that direction. The auctioneer kept skipping over it, moving to the next cage, then the next, never mentioning the one everyone avoided. Curiosity pulled Tay forward. He moved through the crowd until he could see what was inside. A young woman sat hunched in the corner of the cage. Her body was thin, almost skeletal. Dark hair hung in tangles over her face. Her clothes were little more than rags, torn and stained. But what caught Tay's attention were the marks on her skin. Burns, dozens of them running up her arms and across her shoulders. They looked fresh, angry, and red. She didn't move. Didn't look up. Just sat there with her knees pulled to her chest, staring at nothing. "What's wrong with that one?" someone in the crowd asked. "Velkari," another voice answered, low and nervous. "Don't get too close." The word spread through the crowd like poison. Velkari. Tay had heard the name before. Everyone had. They were the cursed ones. The mind breakers, the species that destroyed everything they touched. Stories said they could kill you with a thought, tear your ship apart from the inside, make you see things that weren't there until you went mad. Most people thought they were extinct. The Concordat had made sure of that decades ago. The auctioneer finally, reluctantly, turned to the isolated cage. He cleared his throat, his usual confidence gone. Next item, female, Velkari. Approximately 20 standard years. Psionic dampeners included with purchase. Starting bid 500 credits. Silence. The crowd shuffled backward. 400? The auctioneer tried, his voice cracking slightly. Nothing. No one even looked at the cage anymore. 200 credits. "Come on, people," she sedated, completely harmless with the dampeners. A nervous laugh came from somewhere in the crowd. Harmless. Sure. Tay found himself moving forward before he realized what he was doing. He pushed through the crowd until he stood at the front. The auctioneer spotted him and his eyes lit up with desperate hope. "You, sir, interested in this lot?" Tay ignored the question. He walked closer to the cage, close enough that he could see her clearly now. The burns on her skin weren't random. They formed patterns, circuits almost, running up her arms like chains. Around her neck, a metal collar pulsed with a faint blue light. A dampener. He had seen similar devices during the war, used on prisoners with cybernetic enhancements. This one looked old, poorly maintained. He could see where it had burned into her skin. "What's her name?" Tay asked. The auctioneer blinked. "What? Her name? What is it?" The crowd went quiet. Even the auctioneer seemed caught off guard by the question. He fumbled with his datapad, scrolling through information with shaking hands. Hana. Says here her designation is Hana. Hana. Tay looked at her again. She still hadn't moved. Hadn't acknowledged that people were talking about her. She looked like she had given up a long time ago. Something broke inside Tay's chest. He recognized that look. He had seen it in the mirror after the war, after he watched his entire squad die while he survived. The look of someone who had stopped hoping for anything better. "How long has she been here?" Tay asked. 3 cycles, the auctioneer said quickly, sensing a possible sale. "Clean medical history. No violent incidents. The dampeners keep her completely under control. 3 cycles. 3 months of sitting in that cage, burns covering her body while people walked by and pretended she didn't exist." Tay reached for his credit chip. His hand hesitated for just a moment. He had been saving for months. New engine parts, better shielding. Maybe enough to finally fix the heating system that had been broken since winter. He pulled out the chip anyway. I'll take her. The crowd erupted in whispers. The auctioneer stared at him like he had lost his mind. Maybe he had. Sir, I need to inform you that Velkari ownership comes with significant legal liability. In the event of property damage or injury caused by the subject, you will be held fully responsible. The dampeners must remain active at all times. Removal will void all protections and— I understand. Tay cut him off. How much? 200 credits, plus 50 for the dampener control unit and transfer of ownership codes. Tay handed over his chip. The auctioneer processed the payment with shaking hands, probably terrified that Tay would change his mind. Within minutes, the transaction was complete. 2 slaver guards approached the cage with shock prods ready to move Hana to Tai's ship. She still hadn't looked up, hadn't reacted at all to being sold. I'll handle it, Tay said, waving the guards away. They seemed relieved to keep their distance. Tay approached the cage slowly. He knelt down so he was at eye level with her. For a moment, he didn't say anything, just waited. Finally, Hana lifted her head. Her eyes were dark, almost black with circles underneath that spoke of years without proper sleep. She looked at him with such emptiness that it hurt. Can you walk? Tay asked gently. She didn't answer, just stared at him like she was trying to figure out what new horror was coming. My name is Tay, he continued, keeping his voice soft. I'm going to get you out of here. Okay, still nothing. But after a long moment, she gave the smallest nod. The cage door opened with a metallic screech. Tay stepped back, giving her space. Hana moved slowly, like every muscle hurt. She probably hadn't stood in days. When she finally emerged from the cage, she swayed on her feet. Tay caught her arm to steady her. She flinched at the contact but didn't pull away. Easy, he said. Take your time. Together they walked through the crowd. People scattered out of their path, fear clear on their faces. Tay didn't care. He kept his hand on Hana's arm, gentle but steady, guiding her through the market toward the docking bay where his ship waited. She stumbled once. He caught her again. Almost there, he promised. Hana didn't respond, but for just a second her fingers wrapped around his sleeve, holding on like she was afraid she might disappear if she let go. Tay didn't pull away. The ship was small. Tay had named it the Wildflower years ago, back when he still believed in beautiful things. Now it was just a cargo hauler with bad wiring and an engine that coughed more than it hummed. But it was home. The only home he had left. He led Hana through the airlock and into the medical bay. It wasn't much, just a small room with a bed and some basic equipment. But it was clean. Cleaner than anywhere she had been in a long time, probably. You can rest here, Tay said, gesturing to the bed. I'll be right outside if you need anything. Hana stood in the doorway, staring at the bed like she didn't understand what it was for. The dampener collar still pulsed around her neck, that faint blue light casting shadows on her hollow cheeks. Tay reached for his toolkit. I'm going to remove that collar. Is that okay? Her eyes went wide with fear. She took a step back, shaking her head frantically. Hey, it's okay, Tay said quickly, holding up his hands. I won't do anything you don't want. The collar can stay for now. Hana's breathing was fast, panicked. She looked around the room like she was searching for the trap, the trick, the moment when everything would go wrong. Tay moved slowly toward the door. I'll leave you alone. Get some rest. There's water by the bed and the door locks from the inside. You're safe here. He stepped out and closed the door behind him. Through the thin walls, he could hear her moving around. Cautious footsteps on metal floor. Then nothing. 3 days passed. Hana barely left the medical bay. Tay brought her food, left it outside the door, and walked away. Sometimes the food disappeared. Sometimes it didn't. He never asked, never pushed. At night, he heard her crying, soft sounds that she tried to muffle. Each time, Tay sat outside the door, not saying anything, just being there. After a while, the crying would stop. On the 4th day, Tay was in the cargo hold repairing a stabilizer when he heard footsteps behind him. He turned slowly and saw Hana standing at the entrance. She still wore the collar, still had those burn marks covering her arms, but she was standing on her own. Hi, Tay said, setting down his wrench. Hana didn't say anything, just stood there watching him. Tay went back to his work, giving her space. After a minute, she moved closer. She sat down on a crate about 10 feet away, far enough to run if she needed to. They stayed like that for an hour. Tay worked. Hana watched. Neither spoke. It became a pattern. Every day, Hana would come out a little longer, sit a little closer. Tay never asked questions, never demanded anything. He just worked and let her exist in the same space. On the 7th day, she finally spoke. Why? Her voice was rough, barely above a whisper. Tay looked up from the engine panel he was cleaning. Why what? Why did you buy me? Tay set down his tools and wiped his hands on a rag. He had known this question was coming. He just didn't know how to answer it. I saw someone who needed help, he said finally. People like me don't get help. Hana's voice was flat, stating a fact. People like me get killed, or we get locked up until we die. That's how it works. That's not how it should work, but it is. Hana pulled her knees to her chest, the same position she had been in at the market. You made a mistake? You should take me back. Get your money. Before I hurt you? Are you planning to hurt me? The question seemed to catch her off guard. She looked down at her hands, at the burn marks that covered her skin. I don't want to, she said quietly, but I might. I can't control it. That's why I need the collar. Without it, I'm dangerous. I'm a monster. Tay stood up and walked over to her, moving slowly. He sat down on the floor a few feet away, keeping his distance but close enough that she could see his face clearly. You know what I did before this? Tay asked. Before I was hauling cargo? Hana shook her head. I was a Marine. Fought in the Drellian War. My squad, we were sent to this colony world, Theta 7. The Drellians had taken it over, were using the colonists as shields. Our orders were to clear the planet, no matter the cost. Tay's hands clenched into fists, remembering. We followed those orders. Killed a lot of Drellians, killed a lot of civilians too. People who were just trying to survive. And when we finally secured the planet, Command decided it was easier to just glass it from orbit. Make sure no Drellians could ever use it again. He looked up at Hana. I was the only one from my squad who survived. Made it to an escape pod before the bombardment hit. Watched from space as my friends burned. As thousands of people burned. Hana stared at him, something shifting behind her empty eyes. I used to think I was a monster too. Tay continued. For following those orders. For surviving when everyone else died. For being part of something so terrible. What changed? Hana asked. I realized that having the capacity to hurt people doesn't make you a monster. It's the choices you make. I can't change what I did during the war, but I can choose who I am now. Hana was quiet for a long time. Then slowly she reached up and touched the collar around her neck. I've worn this for 8 years, she said, since I was 12. Before that, there were other collars, other chains. I don't remember what it feels like without them. You're afraid of what might happen if it comes off. I killed someone once. Before the collars, I was 5 years old and I got scared and she closed her eyes. I didn't mean to, but he died anyway. They all died, my family. Everyone I touched. Tay's chest tightened. How old were you when they took you? 5, right after it happened. The Concordat came. Said I was too dangerous to live free. They sold me to researchers, then to slavers, then to other slavers. I've lost count how many times I've been sold. She looked at Tay with those dark, tired eyes. You don't understand what you bought. I'm not a person anymore. I'm a weapon that no one wants. That's where you're wrong, Tay said firmly. You are a person. A person who's been hurt. A person who's been treated like an object for most of her life. But still a person. You can't know that. I do know that. Because if you were really just a weapon, if you were really just a monster, you wouldn't be sitting here warning me about yourself. Monsters don't care who they hurt. Hana looked away, but Tay saw something flicker across her face. Hope, maybe? Or the memory of what hope used to feel like. I don't know how to be anything else, she whispered. Then we'll figure it out together, Tay said. No pressure, no rush. You stay as long as you need. The collar stays until you're ready. And if you're never ready, that's okay too. This is your choice, not mine. Not anyone else's, yours. For the first time since he had bought her, Hana's expression changed. The emptiness cracked just a little. She looked at him like she was seeing him for the first time. I don't understand you, she said. Humans are supposed to be cruel, violent. The Concordat says you're one of the most dangerous species in the galaxy. Tay smiled sadly. They're not wrong. We can be cruel. We can be violent. But we can also choose to be kind. That's what makes us human, I think. The choice. Hana pulled her knees tighter against her chest. But this time, when she looked at him, there was something different in her eyes. Something fragile and new. "Thank you," she said quietly. "For the choice," Tay nodded. "Anytime." They sat together in the cargo hold as the ship hummed around them, traveling through empty space toward a destination neither of them had decided yet. It didn't matter where they were going. What mattered was that for the first time in 8 years, Hana wasn't alone, and for the first time since the war, Tay felt like maybe saving one person could start to balance the scales for all the people he couldn't save. It was a start, a small one, but it was enough. 2 weeks passed aboard the Wildflower. Slowly, carefully, Hana began to exist again instead of just surviving. She started eating regularly, started sleeping without nightmares every single night, started talking more than single words. She even started helping with small tasks around the ship. Organizing supplies, cleaning the air filters. Nothing complicated. Nothing that required her to use the abilities she kept locked away behind that pulsing collar. Tay watched her change day by day. The hollow look in her eyes faded. Her movements became less fearful, more purposeful. She even smiled once, just a small one, when Tay burned dinner so badly that the smoke alarm went off. They were heading toward New Haven, a frontier colony where Tay had a delivery scheduled. It would take another week to get there, traveling through mostly empty space. Safe space. Or so Tay thought. He was in the cockpit checking navigation when the proximity alarm screamed. Tay's hands flew to the controls. 3 ships appeared on his scanner, coming out of the asteroid field that the Wildflower had been skirting around. Fast attack craft. Pirates. Damn it, Tay muttered, immediately changing course. But the Wildflower was old and slow. The pirate ships were new and hungry. A warning shot scorched past the hull. Then a voice crackled over the communication system, rough and amused. "Cargo ship Wildflower, cut your engines and prepare to be boarded. Resist and we'll cut you open and take what we want from the wreckage." Tay's jaw clenched. He had dealt with pirates before. Usually they just took cargo and left. But sometimes they took more than cargo. Sometimes they took people. He looked at the small medical bay indicator light on his console. Hana was in there. Safe. For now. He couldn't let them find her. Tay slammed his fist against the communication button. "I'm carrying basic supplies. Nothing valuable. Just let me pass and we all save ourselves trouble." The pirate laughed. "We'll be the judge of what's valuable. Engines off. Now." Another shot hit the ship. This one closer. Warning lights flashed across the console. The shields were holding but wouldn't last long against sustained fire. Tay had no choice. He powered down the engines. The pirate ships closed in fast. Tay heard the magnetic clamps lock onto the Wildflower's hull with a heavy thud. Then the sound of cutting tools. They were breaching the cargo bay door. Tay grabbed his old service pistol from under the console and ran to the cargo hold. He knew he was outnumbered, knew he probably wouldn't win, but he had to try. The cargo bay door exploded inward with a shower of sparks. 5 pirates pushed through, all armed with rifles and blades. They wore mismatched armor, salvaged from a dozen different sources. The leader, a tall alien with 4 arms and too many teeth, grinned when he saw Tay standing alone. "Just you?" the pirate asked. "This will be easy. Take what you want from the cargo," Tay said, raising his pistol but knowing it was useless. "Then leave." "Oh, we will." The pirate gestured and his crew spread out, searching. "But first we'll check if you're hiding anything interesting." They started ripping open containers, smashing equipment, destroying everything they touched. Tay kept his pistol trained on the leader, waiting for any opening that wouldn't get him killed immediately. Then one of the pirates opened the door to the living quarters. Tay's blood went cold. "Hey, boss," the pirate called out. "There's someone else here, a female." "No. No, no, no." The pirate leader's grin widened. "Well now, looks like we found something valuable after all." Tay moved before he could think. He fired at the pirate blocking the hallway. The shot hit armor and bounced off. The pirate turned toward him with his rifle raised. Before anyone could fire, the lights went out. Not just the cargo bay lights, all the lights. The whole ship went dark except for the emergency strips along the floor. Those flickered and died too, one by one. Then Tay felt it, a pressure in the air. Like the atmosphere itself was getting heavier. His ears popped. The temperature dropped so fast he could see his breath. "What's happening?" one of the pirates shouted. The cargo bay door, the one the pirates had cut through, suddenly shrieked. Metal groaned. Then it tore completely free and flew across the room, slamming into two pirates and pinning them against the far wall. Screaming, the sound of bones breaking. The remaining pirates opened fire wildly into the darkness. Their rifles lit up the cargo bay in brief flashes. Tay dropped to the floor, covering his head. In one of those flashes, he saw her. Hana stood in the hallway entrance. The collar around her neck had gone dark. Her eyes glowed with a pale light, like moonlight reflecting off water. Her hair moved around her face even though there was no wind. She raised one hand. The pirate leader's rifle ripped itself from his grip and crushed like paper. He stumbled backward, fear replacing his earlier confidence. "What are you?" Hana didn't answer. She took a step forward. The floor beneath the pirates began to buckle and warp. One of them tried to run. Before he reached the breached door, he stopped mid-step, frozen. His body lifted into the air, limbs locked in place. "Please," he whimpered. "Please don't." Hana tilted her head, studying him like he was an insect. Her expression was empty again. The same emptiness Tay had seen in the cage at Calris Station. But now it was terrifying. She was going to kill them. All of them. Tay could feel it. The power radiating from her was like standing next to a bomb about to explode. "Hana!" Tay shouted. She didn't react, didn't even look at him. The suspended pirate started screaming as invisible force began to crush him from all sides. "Hana, stop!" Tay ran toward her, ignoring the debris floating through the air, ignoring the danger. He grabbed her arm. The moment he touched her, every piece of floating debris dropped. The lights flickered back on. The pressure vanished. Hana gasped like she had been underwater, and finally broke the surface. The pirate fell to the ground in a heap, alive but barely conscious. The leader and the one other pirate who could still move scrambled for their ship, dragging their injured companions with them. Within seconds, Tay heard their ship detach and fire up its engines, fleeing back into the asteroid field. Silence filled the wildflower. Tay turned to Hana. She was shaking, staring at her hands like they belonged to someone else. The glow had faded from her eyes, but the collar remained dark, useless. "I'm sorry," she whispered. I'm sorry. She collapsed. Tay caught her before she hit the floor. She felt impossibly light in his arms, like she had burned through every bit of energy she had. "You saved us," Tay said, carrying her toward the medical bay. "You hear me? You saved us. I almost killed them." Her voice was hollow again. "I wanted to kill them, but you didn't. You stopped. Because you stopped me." Hana looked up at him, tears running down her face. "I felt what I could do. Without the collar, I could feel their fear, their pain. I could have torn them apart. Part of me wanted to." Tay laid her down on the medical bed gently. "But you didn't," he repeated. "That's what matters. You had the power and you chose not to use it that way. The collar is broken." She touched her neck where the device sat dead and dark. "You need to fix it. You need to lock me back down before I hurt you." "No," Hana's eyes widened. "You don't understand. Without it, I'm dangerous. You saw what I did." "I saw you protect us," Tay said firmly. "I saw you control power that would have destroyed anyone else. I saw you stop when I asked you to. That's not a monster, Hana. That's someone who's stronger than she realizes." "I don't want this power." Her voice cracked. "I never wanted it." "I know, but you have it. And maybe instead of being afraid of it, you can learn to use it. On your terms, your choice." Hana closed her eyes, exhausted. "I don't know how." "Then we'll figure it out. Together. Remember?" She was quiet for a long moment. Then, so softly he almost didn't hear it, she said, Okay. Tay pulled a blanket over her and dimmed the lights. Rest now. We'll deal with everything else later. As he turned to leave, her hand caught his sleeve, the same gesture from when they first left Calris Station, holding on like an anchor. Tay? Yeah? Thank you for not being afraid of me. Tay looked down at her, this young woman who had been tortured and enslaved and treated like a weapon for most of her life, who had just saved them both but was more afraid of herself than anyone else could ever be. I could never be afraid of you, he said honestly. He stayed with her until she fell asleep, her hand still holding onto his sleeve. And for the first time he wondered if maybe they were both saving each other. New Haven lived up to its name for about 5 minutes. The colony sat on the edge of civilized space, a collection of prefab buildings and makeshift structures where people came to start over or hide from their past. It was rough, dirty, and the kind of place where nobody asked too many questions, perfect for staying invisible, or it should have been. Tay docked the Wildflower at a repair station on the outskirts of the colony. The ship had taken damage during the pirate attack and needed work before they could travel safely again. The engine was making a grinding sound that Tay didn't like, and several hull plates needed replacing. Hana stayed on board while Tay went to arrange repairs. She spent most of her time in the cargo bay practicing. The broken collar sat on a shelf, dark and useless. At first, Hana had been terrified without it. Every emotion felt too strong, every thought too loud. But slowly, carefully, she was learning. She started with small things, moving a bolt across the floor with her mind, lifting a wrench into the air and holding it there. Sometimes she lost control and things would fly around the cargo bay, but she always managed to stop before anything broke, before anyone got hurt. Tay watched her when he thought she wasn't paying attention. He saw her frustration when things didn't work right, saw her fear when she felt the power getting too strong, but he also saw her determination. She refused to give up, refused to be afraid of herself anymore. 3 days into repairs, everything fell apart. Tay was at a supply market buying parts when he felt eyes on him. He turned casually, scanning the crowd. At first he saw nothing unusual, just the normal chaos of a frontier market. Then he saw her, a woman in a dark suit that looked far too clean for New Haven. She stood perfectly still while the crowd flowed around her, watching him with eyes that missed nothing. Concordat, had to be. Tay's blood went cold. He paid for his parts quickly and headed back toward the docks, taking a winding route through side streets. When he glanced back, the woman was following him. Not hiding it, just following, calm and patient. He needed to warn Hana, needed to get them off this planet before things got worse. But when he reached the docking bay, the woman was already there, waiting at the bottom of the Wildflowers ramp. Up close he could see the Concordat insignia on her collar. An investigator, the kind of person who didn't stop until they got what they wanted. Tay, she said, her voice cool and professional. My name is Sora. I'm a Concordat investigator. We need to talk. I have nothing to say to you. Tay moved to walk past her. Sora didn't move. You're harboring a Class 5 psionic entity. Velkari. This is a serious violation of Concordat law. I'm not harboring anyone. I have a crew member. That's all. Velkari are not legally recognized as sentient beings under Concordat law. They're classified as weapons of mass destruction. Possessing one without proper containment and authorization is a crime. Tay's hands clenched into fists. She's not a weapon. She's a person. That's not how the law sees it. Sora pulled out a datapad and showed him an official document. I have authority to seize or eliminate any uncontained Velkari. I'm giving you one chance to surrender her voluntarily. Do that and you'll only face minor charges. Refuse and I'll be forced to take more aggressive action. You're not taking her anywhere, Tay. Sora's expression didn't change, but something flickered in her eyes, almost like regret. I've read your military record. You were a good Marine. Honorable. You don't want to throw your life away for this. My life is already thrown away, Tay said quietly. At least this way it means something. Before Sora could respond, Tay heard footsteps on the ramp behind him. He turned and his heart sank. Hana stood at the top of the ramp. She must have heard everything. Her face was calm, but her eyes were dark with old pain. It's okay, Tay, she said. I'll go with her. No. Tay moved toward the ramp, but Sora's hand caught his arm. Don't make this harder than it needs to be, Sora warned. Hana walked down the ramp slowly. She looked at Sora without fear, without anything. The same empty expression she had worn in the cage at Calris Station. I'll come quietly, Hana said. Just don't hurt him. He didn't know what I was. He was just trying to help. I knew exactly what you were, Tay said, and I'm not letting them take you. You don't have a choice. Yes, I do. We both do. Tay pulled his arm free from Sora and stood between her and Hana. I'm not giving up on you. Not now, not ever. Sora's calm expression finally cracked. She looked genuinely confused. Why, she's not your species. Not your responsibility. You have no obligation to protect her. That's where you're wrong. Tay met Sora's eyes. I have an obligation to protect her because nobody else will. Because she's been hurt and used and treated like an object her entire life. Because she deserves better. She's a threat to galactic stability. Her kind have killed millions. So have mine, Tay said. So have yours, probably. Every species in the galaxy has blood on their hands. Doesn't mean we don't deserve a chance to be better. Sora was quiet for a moment, processing. Then she tapped her datapad. I'm calling in reinforcements. You have 5 minutes to surrender her. After that, I will use force. She walked away to make the call, leaving Ty and Hana alone. You should let me go, Hana said softly. This is what I was trying to tell you. People like me don't get happy endings. Maybe you're right, Tay admitted, but that doesn't mean we stop fighting for one. I don't want you to die because of me, and I don't want to live knowing I gave up on you when you needed me most. Tay held out his hand. So we run together, or we don't run at all. Hana stared at his hand. Behind them, Sora was still talking into her communicator. They had maybe 3 minutes before Concordat troops arrived. Why? Hana whispered. Why do you care so much? Because nobody should be defined by what they might do, Tay said. Only by what they choose. For a long moment, Hana didn't move. Then slowly she reached out and took his hand. Her fingers were cold but steady. Then we run, she said. They ran up the ramp. Tay hit the emergency undock sequence and threw himself into the pilot's seat. The Wildflower's engines screamed in protest but fired up. Warning alarms blared. The repair work wasn't finished. Half the systems were offline. But they didn't have time to care. The ship lifted off just as Concordat troops arrived at the docking bay. Laser fire scored the hull. Tay pushed the throttle to maximum, ignoring the grinding sounds from the engine. They're launching pursuit ships, Hana said, watching the scanner. I know. Hold on. Tay dove the Wildflower toward the colony's outskirts, flying low and fast between buildings. The pursuit ships followed, but they were bigger, less maneuverable. He had one advantage and he was going to use it. He saw the debris field ahead, old mining equipment, abandoned satellites, chunks of rock that had been blasted from the nearby asteroid belt. It was dangerous. Navigating through it at high speed was suicide. Perfect. Tay, what are you doing? Hana asked, fear creeping into her voice. Something stupid. Close your eyes if you want. He flew into the debris field. Alarms screamed. Impact warnings flashed across every screen. Tay's hands moved on instinct, dodging left, diving right, rolling the ship to slip through gaps that were barely wide enough. Behind them, one of the pursuit ships clipped a piece of debris and spiraled away. Another tried to follow their path and got cut off by a tumbling satellite. Only one ship stayed with them, the pilot good enough to match Tay's desperate maneuvers. They were almost through the field when a chunk of rock the size of a building appeared directly in their path. Too close, too fast. No way to dodge, Hana, Tay shouted. He felt her power surge. The rock stopped spinning, just stopped, hanging in space like it was frozen. The Wildflower flew past it, missing by inches. The pursuit ship behind them wasn't so lucky. Without Hana's power to help, it slammed into the rock and exploded in a brief flash of light. They cleared the debris field and jumped to hyperspace. The stars stretched into lines. New Haven disappeared behind them. Tay finally let himself breathe. His hands were shaking on the controls. Hana slumped in the co-pilot seat, exhausted from using her power. But she was smiling, just a little. We made it, she said, like she couldn't quite believe it. We made it, Tay confirmed. Where do we go now? Tay thought about that. They couldn't go back to civilized space. The Concordat would be hunting them. They needed somewhere safe, somewhere far from the law, I know a place, he said. It's rough, dangerous, but people there don't ask questions. Sounds perfect. Tay looked at her, this young woman who had just helped him escape the most powerful government in the galaxy. Who was smiling even though they were fugitives now. Who trusted him enough to run into the unknown. Yeah, he agreed. It does. The wildflower flew through hyperspace toward the outer reaches, toward Haven's End, toward whatever came next. Together. Haven's End wasn't beautiful. It was a converted mining station floating in a forgotten corner of space where even pirates didn't bother looking. The outer hull was patched with mismatched panels. Half the lights were burned out. The whole structure groaned and creaked like it might fall apart at any moment. But it was home to hundreds of people who had nowhere else to go. The Wildflower docked at one of the outer ports. Tay powered down the engines with relief. They had been running on fumes for the last 2 hours. One more jump and the ship would have torn itself apart. Stay close to me, Tay told Hana as they walked through the airlock. People here are friendly enough, but they don't trust strangers. Hana nodded. She had her hood pulled up, hiding her face. Old habits from years of being invisible. The interior of Haven's End was a maze of corridors and chambers carved from rock and metal. People moved through the passages like water, flowing around each other with practiced ease. Tay saw dozens of species he recognized and a few he didn't. Some had cybernetic implants that marked them as illegal modifications. Others wore the scars of genetic engineering gone wrong. Everyone here had been rejected by civilized space. Nobody looked at them twice. They found the central hub, a large open area that served as a market, meeting place, and social center. Vendors sold everything from food to weapons to information. The air smelled like oil, sweat, and cooking meat from a dozen different worlds. Tay approached a vendor he recognized, an older woman with silver hair and mechanical eyes. Her name was Bora, and she had been living on Haven's End for 20 years. Tay, Bora said with genuine warmth, didn't expect to see you again so soon. Thought you were done with this place. Plans changed, Tay said. I need a place to stay. Long term. Bora's mechanical eyes clicked and whirred as they focused on him, reading details invisible to normal sight. Then they shifted to Hana. What are you running from? Bora asked. The Concordat. Bora whistled low. Must be serious. They don't usually chase people all the way out here. It's serious. Bora studied Hana for a moment longer. Then she nodded. I have space in the lower levels. 2 rooms, shared facilities. It's not fancy, but it's safe. We'll take it. Payment in advance. Tay handed over most of his remaining credits. Bora counted them quickly and handed him 2 key cards. Level 5, Section B. Welcome home. She paused. And Tay? Whatever you're running from, people here won't judge. But they also won't help if trouble comes knocking. Keep your head down. Understood. The rooms were small and sparse. Just beds, storage lockers, and a shared bathroom down the hall. But they were clean and the doors locked. After weeks of running, it felt like luxury. Hana sat on her bed and pulled back her hood. People here don't care that I'm Velkari. People here have their own problems, Tay said. Most of them are running from something too. As long as you don't cause trouble, they'll leave you alone. Over the next few weeks, Hana slowly began to relax. Really relax, for the first time since Tay had found her. On Haven's End, nobody stared at her with fear. Nobody whispered when she walked by. She was just another refugee among hundreds. She met Bora properly one day at the market. The older woman was buying supplies when Hana accidentally knocked over a crate with her power. Objects flew everywhere. Hana froze, terrified, waiting for the screaming to start. Instead, Bora just laughed. Telekinetic? She asked, picking up a fallen can. Hana nodded, unable to speak. I had a partner once with that gift. Never could keep the dishes from floating away when she got excited. Bora smiled. You'll get better with practice. You're not afraid? Of you, please. I've seen scarier things in my own mirror. Bora gestured at her mechanical eyes. These weren't a fashion choice. I was a soldier once. Got caught in an explosion. The Concordat said I was too damaged to save. Threw me out like garbage. So no, I'm not afraid of you. I'm just glad you found your way here. It was the first time someone besides Tai had treated Hana like she was normal. Like she belonged. Bora became her friend. Her first real friend. They spent time together in the market, talking about everything and nothing. Bora taught Hana about Haven's End, about the different people and cultures that mixed together here. She also taught her practical things. How to cook, how to fix electronics, how to live like a person instead of a prisoner. But mostly, Bora taught Hana how to use her power safely. They found an empty chamber deep in the station's lower levels. Bora set up a training space with objects of different weights and materials. Every day Hana practiced, moving things, lifting things, controlling things with precision instead of just raw power. At first it was hard. Her power would surge too strong or cut out completely. She got frustrated, angry with herself. But Bora was patient. Stop thinking of it as something separate from you, Bora advised. It's part of who you are. Like breathing. You don't think about every breath, do you? Hana tried to understand, tried to feel her power as natural instead of dangerous. Slowly, over weeks of practice, she improved. She learned to lift objects without breaking them, learned to sense things around her without seeing them, learned to use just enough force and no more. She was learning control, real control, not just suppression. One evening, Tay found her in the training chamber. She was sitting in the center of the room while dozens of objects orbited around her in perfect circles. Rocks, tools, pieces of scrap metal, all moving in harmony like planets around a sun. That's amazing, Tay said from the doorway. Hana opened her eyes and smiled. The objects settled gently to the floor. Bora says I'm a fast learner. She's right. Hana stood up, brushing dust from her clothes. I never thanked you. Not properly. For everything you've done. You don't need to thank me. Yes, I do. Hana walked over to him. She was still thin, still carried the scars from years of abuse, but she stood taller now, held herself with confidence instead of fear. You saved my life. Not just at the market, every day since then. You gave me a chance to be myself. You did the hard part, Tay said. I just gave you space to do it. Hana reached out and took his hand. Still, thank you. They stood like that for a moment, just existing together in comfortable silence. Then Hana squeezed his hand. I'm glad you saw something else that day, she said. At the market. Everyone else saw a monster. But you saw me. I'll always see you, Tay promised. That night, the people of Haven's End gathered in the central hub for what they called community night. Everyone brought food to share, told stories, played music. It was chaotic and loud and beautiful. Hana sat with Tay and Bora, eating food she had never tried before, listening to stories from a dozen different worlds. Someone started playing an instrument that sounded like wind through metal. Others joined with drums and strings. The music filled the station, turning the cold metal corridors into something warm. A child, no more than 5 years old, ran up to Hana. She was some species Hana didn't recognize. With fur and huge eyes, can you make me float? The child asked shyly. Hana looked at Tay. He nodded encouragement. Carefully, gently, Hana lifted the child a few inches off the ground. The girl squealed with delight, laughing and kicking her feet in the air. Other children came running, all wanting turns. Soon Hana was floating 5 children at once, spinning them in slow circles while they giggled and shouted. The adults watched with smiles instead of fear. Nobody reached for weapons. Nobody ran, they just let her play with their children. Hana's eyes filled with tears. Happy tears. For the first time in 8 years, she was using her power to create joy instead of pain. She was part of a community. She belonged. Later, when the children were tired and the adults were sharing quiet conversation, Bora leaned over to Tay. You did good bringing her here, Bora said. She did all the hard work herself. Maybe, but she couldn't have done it alone. Sometimes people just need someone to believe in them first. Tay watched Hana laughing at something another resident said. Her whole face was lit up, so different from the hollow shell he had found at Calris Station. I think she saved me as much as I saved her, Tay admitted. That's usually how it works, Bora said wisely. The best relationships are the ones where everyone grows. As the night wound down, Tay and Hana walked back to their rooms. The station's corridors were quieter now, peaceful. I like it here, Hana said. It feels safe. It is safe. For now. You think the Concordat will find us? Tay considered lying. Considered telling her everything would be fine forever. But Hana deserved honesty, maybe, he said. But if they do, we'll face it together. Hana nodded. Together. They reached their rooms. Hana stopped at her door and turned to face Tay. Tay? I think I'm starting to understand something. What's that? Why humans are called dangerous. It's not because you're violent or cruel. It's because you refuse to give up on people. Even when everyone else has. That's terrifying to people who want the galaxy to stay the same. Tay smiled. Maybe you're right. I know I am. Hana smiled back. Good night, Tay. Good night, Hana. She went into her room and closed the door. Tay stood in the hallway for a moment, feeling something he hadn't felt since before the war. Hope. Real hope. Not for himself, but for someone he cared about. It was enough. Peace never lasted long in the outer reaches. Tay should have known that. Should have expected it. But 3 months of quiet living on Haven's End had made him forget how persistent the Concordat could be. The warning came at dawn. Alarms screamed through the station's corridors. Tay was already moving before he was fully awake, years of military training taking over. He grabbed his old service pistol and ran toward the central hub. People were panicking, running in all directions. Over the intercom, a voice Tay recognized as one of the station administrators was trying to maintain order. This is not a drill. Concordat battle group detected on approach. All residents to defensive positions. This is not a drill. Tay's blood went cold. They had found them. He fought through the crowd until he found Bora. She was already in armor, checking weapons with mechanical efficiency. How many ships? Tay demanded. 6, 2 cruisers, 4 frigates. They're broadcasting demands for us to surrender all inhabitants classified as galactic threats. Bora's expression was grim. They're not here to negotiate, Tay. They're here to destroy us. Because of Hana. Probably. But also because we're inconvenient. The Concordat doesn't like places where their laws don't reach. Bora loaded her rifle. Where is she? I don't know. I need to find her. Make it fast. We have maybe 20 minutes before they're in weapons range. Tay ran to Hana's room. Empty. He checked the training chamber. Also empty. Panic started to rise in his chest. Then he remembered where she liked to go when she needed to think. The observation deck. He found her there, standing at the window, looking out at the approaching ships. They were just dots now, but growing larger every second. Hana, Ty said, trying to keep his voice calm. We need to go. The station is going to fight, but we need to get you somewhere safe. There is nowhere safe, Hana said quietly. She didn't turn around. They found us. They'll always find us. We can run again. For how long? How many places do we burn through before we accept the truth? Finally, she turned to face him. Her eyes were sad but clear. They're here because of me. All these people are about to fight and die because I'm here. That's not your fault, isn't it? Hana gestured at the window. The Concordat sent 6 warships. For one person. They're willing to destroy an entire station, kill hundreds of people just to eliminate me. How is that not my fault? Because you didn't make them cruel. Tay crossed the room and grabbed her shoulders. You didn't make them fear what they don't understand. You didn't create this situation. They did. Then let me end it. Hana's voice was steady. I'll surrender. Tell them I'll go with them peacefully. Maybe they'll leave everyone else alone. You know they won't. The Concordat doesn't forgive. They'll take you and destroy this place anyway just to make a point. Then what do we do? Before Tay could answer, Bora's voice crackled over his communicator. Tay, get to the central hub. Now, we need every fighter we have. They ran together through the corridors. The station was transforming. Civilians were being moved to the inner chambers. The outer sections were being sealed off. People with weapons were gathering at defensive positions. Haven's End had always been more than just a refugee station. The people here had fought before. They knew how to protect what was theirs, but they were still vastly outnumbered. In the central hub, maybe 50 fighters had gathered. Tay saw species he couldn't name. Weapons ranging from military rifles to homemade energy weapons. Bora stood at the center, organizing everyone with the precision of an experienced commander. She saw Ty and Hana enter, and gestured them over. The Concordat is broadcasting a message, Bora said. They want the Velkari. Surrender her within 10 minutes or they open fire on the station. I'll go, Hana said immediately. No, said a voice from the crowd. A man with forearms and scarred skin stepped forward. You go, they still attack. Concordat doesn't negotiate with people like us. Others voiced agreement. They had all been betrayed by the Concordat before. They knew how this worked. So we fight, someone said. We'll lose, another voice argued. 6 warships against a mining station? We don't have a chance, and then we die fighting instead of begging. Bora's voice cut through the argument. This station is our home. These people are our family. I'd rather die protecting that than live knowing I gave up. A rumble of agreement moved through the crowd. Tay felt something swell in his chest. Pride maybe, or maybe just recognition. These people had been rejected, cast aside, treated like garbage by the galaxy. But they had found each other, built something worth protecting, and they weren't going to let it go without a fight, even if the fight was impossible. The station shook. The Concordat had opened fire. Warning shots hitting the outer shields, positions. Bora shouted. The fighters scattered, heading to defensive emplacements throughout the station. Tay started to follow, but Hana caught his arm. I can help, she said. Hana, it's too dangerous. More dangerous than letting everyone die? Tay, I'm the most powerful person on this station. Let me help. Tay looked at her. Really looked. She wasn't the broken girl from the cage anymore. She wasn't even the frightened refugee who had arrived here months ago. She had grown stronger, more confident. She knew what she could do. Okay, he said. But we do this smart. Stay with me. They took position at one of the outer airlocks. Through the viewport, Tay could see the Concordat ships closing in. They were beautiful in a terrible way, sleek and deadly. The station's defenses fired back. Old mining lasers repurposed as weapons. Missiles salvaged from derelict ships. It was like throwing stones at a storm. One of the frigates launched fighters, small fast attack craft that swarmed toward the station. They started targeting the defensive emplacements, picking off the station's weapons one by one. Aura, we need to take out those fighters or we're done, Tay said into his communicator. Working on it, Bora replied, strain in her voice. We just lost sections 3 and 7. They're cutting through our defenses too fast. Tay watched the fighters swarm closer. Then he felt Hana's hand on his arm. Her eyes had that distant look, the one she got when she was using her power. I can feel them, she whispered. The pilots. Their fear. Their determination. I can feel the ships too. The metal. The energy. Hana, what are you thinking? She didn't answer. Just raised her hand toward the viewport. Outside, one of the fighters suddenly spun out of control. Its weapons fired randomly as the pilot lost all control of the ship. It spiraled away from the battle. Then another fighter lost control. Then 3 more. Hana was breathing hard, sweat beading on her forehead. I can't stop them all, too many. Too far away? You don't have to stop them all, Tay said. Just slow them down. Give our people time to fight back, the battle raged. Haven's End was taking heavy damage. Whole sections were sealed off, venting atmosphere. Fires broke out in the lower levels. People were dying, but they were also fighting back. The defenders managed to destroy one of the frigates. The station's old mining lasers, meant for cutting rock, punched through the warship's hull. It broke apart in a silent explosion. The Concordat responded by focusing fire on the central hub. They were going to tear the station's heart out. Hana felt it before anyone else. Everyone needs to evacuate the hub. Now, why? Tay asked. Because I'm not letting them destroy our home. Before Tay could stop her, Hana ran toward the central hub. He followed, his heart pounding with fear. They reached the hub just as the Concordat cruiser fired its main weapon. A beam of concentrated energy bright enough to hurt looking at it, aimed directly at the heart of Haven's End. Hana stepped into the center of the hub. She spread her arms wide. Her eyes glowed with that pale light Tay had seen once before. The energy beam hit an invisible wall and stopped. Just stopped, held frozen in space by Hana's power. The strain was immense. Blood started trickling from her nose. Her body trembled, but the shield held. The Concordat fired again, and again. Each time Hana absorbed the impact, the floor beneath her feet began to crack from the force. Hana, you can't keep this up, Tay shouted over the roar of energy. I won't let them win, Hana gasped. Not this time. These people gave me a home. I'm protecting it. The Concordat stopped firing. Through the viewport, Tay could see the ships hesitating. They had never seen anything like this. One person, holding back the firepower of multiple warships. Then a new voice came over the station's communication system. A voice Tay recognized. All Concordat forces cease fire. Cease fire immediately. It was Sora. Her face appeared on every screen in the station. She was on the bridge of one of the cruisers, surrounded by other Concordat officers. This is Investigator Sora. I am ordering all forces to stand down. The Velkari is not the threat we believed. Repeat, stand down. Confusion rippled through the Concordat fleet, through the station. Investigator, you don't have authority to... One of the officers started. I am assuming command of this operation, Sora interrupted. If anyone has a problem with that, they can file a complaint. After we stopped making a catastrophic mistake, the firing stopped. The Concordate ships held position but didn't attack. Hana collapsed. Tay caught her before she hit the ground. She was barely conscious, having pushed her power far beyond its limits. "I've got you," Tay whispered. "You did it. You saved everyone." Hana managed a weak smile. "Together," she whispered back. "We saved them together." 3 hours after the battle ended, Sora's shuttle docked at Haven's End. The station was battered and scarred, but still standing. Repair crews were already working to seal hull breaches and restore damaged systems. The casualties had been lighter than expected, though every lost life still weighed heavy on everyone's hearts. Tay met Sora at the airlock, his pistol holstered but within easy reach. He didn't trust her, not yet. Maybe not ever. "I'm here to talk," Sora said, holding up her empty hands. "Not to fight. You attacked us with 6 warships. Forgive me if I'm not feeling conversational. I understand. But I need to speak with Hana. And with you." Tay considered refusing, but Bora, who had joined him at the airlock, put a hand on his shoulder. "Let's hear what she has to say," Bora advised. She did stop the attack. Reluctantly, Tay led Sora to the medical bay where Hana was recovering. She was awake but weak, lying in bed with monitoring equipment tracking her vitals. When she saw Sora enter, her body tensed. "Easy," Tay said, moving to stand between them. "She says she wants to talk." "I'm not here to hurt you," Sora said to Hana. "I'm here to apologize." The room went silent. That was the last thing anyone expected. Sora pulled up a chair and sat down, making herself smaller, less threatening. "I've spent 10 years hunting people classified as threats to the Concordate. I've captured or eliminated hundreds. I believed I was protecting the galaxy from dangerous individuals who couldn't be trusted to control themselves." She looked directly at Hana. "I was wrong." "What changed?" Hana asked quietly. "I watched you protect this station. I saw you use power that could have destroyed my entire fleet, but instead you used it to shield people. To save them. I watched the recordings from New Haven, from the Wildflower, from everywhere you've been since Tay found you." Sora's professional mask cracked slightly. "You're not a weapon. You're a person who's been treated terribly and still chose to be kind." "So what now?" Tay demanded. "You realize you were wrong and everything is fine?" "No, nothing is fine. I can't undo the years of suffering Hana experienced. I can't bring back her family or give her back her childhood, but I can try to stop it from happening to others like her." Sora pulled out her datapad and showed them an official document. "This is my resignation from the Concordate Investigative Division. Effective immediately. I've also submitted a full report documenting what happened here, not the sanitized version they want. The truth. That the Velkari were not the monsters we claimed they were, that we created the threat by treating them like threats. They'll bury that report," Bora said. "The Concordate doesn't admit mistakes." "Probably," Sora agreed. "But I've sent copies to every major news organization, every independent government, every place that might listen. Someone will publish it. The truth will get out even if the Concordate tries to suppress it." Hana sat up slowly, studying Sora's face. "Why are you doing this? You could lose everything." "I already lost everything that mattered," Sora said. "My integrity, my sense of justice, my belief that I was helping people." She met Hana's eyes. "You gave me a chance to get those things back. The least I can do is give you a chance too." "A chance at what?" "To change things. To find other Velkari survivors and help them. To prove to the galaxy that your people deserve to exist freely." Sora leaned forward. "You're not the only one left, Hana. There are others, hiding, enslaved, scattered across 100 different worlds. But they're out there." Hana's breath caught. "Others? There are others?" "At least 24 that I know of from my investigations. Probably more that I never found." For the first time since Ty met her, Hana looked truly hopeful. Not just for herself, but for something bigger. "I could find them? Help them? With the right resources and protection, yes. It won't be easy. It won't be safe. But it's possible." Tay felt something shift inside him. This was the purpose he had been missing since the war. Not just protecting one person, but helping change the entire system that had hurt her. Making sure what happened to Hana never happened to anyone else. "We'll do it," Ty said. "We'll help." Hana looked at him in surprise. "Tay, you don't have to." "Yes, I do. You taught me that refusing to give up on people is what makes us human. Time to prove it on a bigger scale." Bora cleared her throat. If you're assembling a team of idealistic fools, I'm volunteering. Someone needs to keep you all alive. I can provide intelligence, Sora offered. Locations, contacts, resources. I still have access to concordant databases. For now, anyway. Won't that make you a traitor? Hana asked. I became a traitor the moment I stopped that attack. Might as well make it count. Over the next few days, they planned. Sora provided a list of locations where Valkyrie might be held or hiding. Bora helped them gather supplies and weapons. The people of Haven's End, grateful to be alive, donated credits and resources to help. The wildflower was repaired and upgraded. Not just patched together, but properly fixed for the first time in years. New shields, better weapons, faster engines. It would never be a warship, but it would be reliable. On the morning they were scheduled to leave, Hana found Tai in the observation deck. He was looking out at the stars, thinking about everything that had changed in the past few months. Nervous? Hana asked, joining him at the window. Terrified, Tay admitted. We're about to make enemies of one of the most powerful organizations in the galaxy. You could still walk away. This isn't your fight. Tay turned to look at her. Yes, it is. It became my fight the moment I decided to see you as a person instead of a problem. Everything after that has just been following through. Hana smiled. The real smile, the one that lit up her whole face. I'm glad you bought me at that market. I'm glad you were too stubborn to give up on me. I'm glad you let me. Tay held out his hand. Ready for this? Hana took his hand. As ready as I'll ever be, but Tay, whatever happens, thank you. For everything. For seeing me when no one else would. For giving me a reason to hope again. You gave me the same thing. After the war, I was just drifting. Trying to forget. You reminded me that moving forward is better than running away. They stood together at the window looking out at the galaxy that had hurt them both. But instead of fear, they felt determination. They were going to change things. Save people. Build something better. The Wildflower launched from Haven's End a few hours later. Tay piloted with Hana in the co-pilot seat. Bora manned the weapon systems. Sora sat in the back, going through intelligence reports and planning their first destination. As they jumped to hyperspace, leaving Haven's End behind, Hana felt something she hadn't felt since she was 5 years old. Before the collar, before the slavery, before everything went wrong, she felt free. Not just physically free, but free in her heart. Free to choose. Free to become whoever she wanted to be instead of what others had made her. Their first destination was a mining colony on the edge of concordant space. According to Sora's intelligence, a Valkyrie was being held there by a private security company. Used as a living weapon to suppress worker strikes and maintain control, the rescue was messy but successful. The Valkyrie, a man named Jiho who had been enslaved for 15 years, didn't trust them at first. Couldn't believe that anyone would help without wanting something in return. But Hana sat with him for hours, sharing her own story, showing him her scars, letting him know he wasn't alone. When Jiho finally removed his dampener collar, he cried. Just stood there in the Wildflower's cargo bay and cried like a child. Hana held him and cried too. Bora looked away, her mechanical eyes suspiciously bright. Even Tai had to wipe his eyes. It's okay now, Hana told Jiho. You're safe. You're free. And you're coming with us, Jiho stayed. Became part of their crew. Part of their family. They found 3 more Valkyrie over the next 2 months. A young girl named Minji who had been hidden by her adopted parents for years, terrified of being discovered. An older woman named Unji who had been living in complete isolation on an abandoned station, convinced she was the last of her kind. A teenager named Duri, who had been experimented on by researchers trying to weaponize his abilities. Each rescue was different. Each person brought their own pain, their own trauma, their own story, but they all found the same thing on the Wildflower: acceptance, safety, hope. The ship became crowded. They had to retrofit the cargo bay into living quarters. Meals were chaotic, with everyone crowded around the small galley. But it was good chaos, happy chaos. The sound of people laughing together, sharing stories, being alive instead of just surviving. Hana taught each of them what Bora had taught her. How to control their power, how to use it without fear, how to be proud of who they were instead of ashamed. She was becoming a teacher, a leader, the person others looked to for guidance. News of their work spread through the underground networks. Other refugees started reaching out with information about Velkari sightings and rumors. Some tips were false. Some were traps set by bounty hunters or Concordat agents. But some were real. They saved 17 Velkari in 6 months. But the Concordat noticed. They couldn't ignore a group of fugitives openly defying their laws, rescuing classified weapons and spreading dangerous ideas about freedom and rights. They sent hunters. Professional ones. The Wildflower was attacked twice. Both times they barely escaped, and the second time Bora took a blast to her shoulder that nearly killed her.